My aunt threatened to destroy my family over land we cherished. Hurt and cornered, I fought back with clever moves, turning the tables to protect what's ours and finding strength in the chaos. My name is Joshua, and I'm 28 years old. I never thought I'd be stuck in the middle of a family mess like this, but here I am, trying to figure out how to keep everything from falling apart. It all started a few months ago when my aunt, Clara, threatened to report my mom to the police if she didn't get a share of the family land. That land has been in our family for years, passed down from my grandparents, and it's the one thing my mom has always held onto tightly. To her, it's not just dirt and trees. It's memories, it's history, it's something she wants to leave for me and my younger sister, Hadley, who's 22. But Clara sees it differently. She thinks she's entitled to a piece of it, and she's not backing down. Clara's always been the loud one in the family. She's in her late 40s, single, and has a temper that flares up fast. She's my mom's younger sister, and they've never really gotten along. Growing up, I'd hear stories about how Clara would borrow money from my grandparents and never pay it back, or how she'd start fights at family gatherings over the smallest things. She's the kind of person who holds grudges and doesn't let go until she gets what she wants. My mom, on the other hand, is quieter but stubborn in her own way. She's 55 now, a widow since my dad passed away 10 years ago, and she's worked hard to keep our little family together. She's not perfect. Sometimes she's too proud to ask for help, but she's always put me and Hadley first. The land Clara's after is a decent-sized plot out in the countryside, about an hour from where we live. It's got a small house on it, a few acres of fields, and a pond my dad used to fish in when I was a kid. My mom's dream has always been to fix up the house and maybe rent it out one day, or even move there herself when she retires. It's not worth a fortune, but it's valuable enough that selling even a part of it would mean losing something she's fought to protect. Clara claims she deserves a share because she's family, but my mom says Clara never cared about the land until she heard a developer was sniffing around the area, offering good money for properties like ours. The first time Clara brought it up, I was at my mom's house helping her fix a leaky faucet. Hadley was there too, scrolling on her phone at the kitchen table. The doorbell rang, and before my mom could even get up, Clara barged in, her face red and her voice loud. "I'm not joking this time," she said, pointing at my mom. "You give me my share, or I'm calling the cops. I'll tell them you're hiding assets or something. I know my rights." My mom just stood there, arms crossed, and told her to leave. Hadley looked at me, wide-eyed, like she was waiting for me to do something, but I didn't know what to say. It was a mess. That was the main problem, but it wasn't the only one. Things got worse because of my sister, Hadley. She's a sweet kid, but she's got a big mouth and no filter. A week after Clara's outburst, Hadley ran into one of our cousins at the grocery store and started venting about the whole situation. She didn't mean any harm, but she said too much, stuff like how mom was thinking of selling the land to a developer just to shut Clara up. Word got back to Clara, and she flipped out all over again, thinking mom was secretly planning to cut her out and pocket the cash. It wasn't true. Mom was just stressed and throwing out ideas, but Clara didn't care. She started calling the house nonstop, leaving voicemails about lawyers and police reports. Hadley felt awful and kept apologizing, but the damage was done. Then there's my Uncle Sawyer, Clara's older brother. He's in his early 50s, laid back, and usually stays out of family drama. He lives a couple of hours away with his wife and kids, and I've always liked him. He's the kind of guy who'd slip me $20 when I was a kid just because. I thought maybe he could talk some sense into Clara, so I called him up one night. "Josh," he said, sounding tired. "I'd love to help, but Clara's been hounding me too. She wants me to back her up, says I'm owed a piece of the land just like she is. I don't even want it, but she won't let it go." That's when I realized this wasn't just about Clara and mom anymore. It was pulling everyone in. The pressure was building, and I felt stuck. I'm not rich or anything. I work as a mechanic at a local garage, and I've got my own apartment to pay for. But that land means something to me too. I spent summers there as a kid, running around with Hadley, fishing with Dad. It's where I'd go when I needed to clear my head after he died. If Clara got her way and forced a sale, I'd lose that. And if Mom gave in just to avoid the fight, she'd be crushed. I couldn't let either of those things happen. On top of all that, my mom started acting weird. She'd snap at me over little things, like if I left a dish in the sink when I came over. One night, she broke down crying in the living room, saying she didn't know how to fix this without losing everything. I'd never seen her like that, and it hit me hard. Hadley tried to cheer her up, but she was dealing with her own guilt about blabbing to our cousin. The house felt heavy, like the air was thick with all our problems. I decided I had to do something. Clara wasn't going to back off, and Mom wasn't in any shape to deal with her alone. I started digging into what Clara could actually do. Could she really go to the police? I spent a few nights searching online and even posted a vague question on X about property disputes, keeping it anonymous. Most people said she didn't have a real case. Family land isn't something you can just claim like that unless there's a will or legal proof, and my grandparents left it all to Mom. Clara was bluffing, or at least I hoped she was. But I didn't want to take chances. I called Sawyer again and asked him to meet me halfway between our places at a diner. Over coffee, I laid it all out. How Mom was falling apart, how Hadley was a wreck, how Clara was tearing us up over something she didn't even care about until now. She's always been greedy, Sawyer admitted, stirring his coffee. But she's my sister. I don't want to pick sides. I told him he didn't have to pick sides. Just help me calm her down. He sighed but said he'd try. After my talk with Sawyer at the diner, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed more backup. I started thinking about my old high school friend, Mark, who'd gone into real estate a few years back. He wasn't family, but he knew land deals better than anyone I trusted. I gave him a call and met him at a coffee shop the next day. Mark's a big guy, always smiling, and he listened while I spilled everything about Clara and the land. Man, she's got no leg to stand on, he said, shaking his head. That developer she's banking on, they're flaky. Heard they pulled out of a deal nearby last month. Tell her that, and watch her squirm. It was a small thing, but it felt like another card I could play if Clara pushed harder. The next few days, I kept that info in my back pocket while I watched Mom try to act like everything was fine. She'd started gardening in the backyard again, pulling weeds like it was therapy. One afternoon, I caught her staring at an old photo of her and Dad by the pond on the land. She didn't say anything, just wiped her eyes and went back to her plants. It hit me then how much this was wearing her down, even if she wouldn't admit it. I promised myself I'd end this soon, one way or another. Meanwhile, I talked to Hadley. She's got a good heart, even if she's impulsive. I asked her to help me keep Mom steady. Maybe take her out for a day, get her mind off things. Hadley nodded, wiping her eyes. I messed up, Josh. I'll fix it. She started spending more time with Mom, dragging her to the mall, or just watching old movies together. It wasn't a cure, but it gave Mom a break. The real plan came together when I remembered a guy I work with, Lila's brother. Lila's a lawyer, 32, sharp as anything. She's not close to me or anything. We've just chatted a few times when she's picked her brother up from the garage, but I figured she might help. I called her and explained the situation, keeping it casual so I didn't sound desperate. Sounds like your aunt's full of hot air, Lila said, laughing a little. She'd need proof she's entitled to anything, and even then, it's a civil matter, not a police one. Tell her to try it. She'll just waste her time. That gave me confidence. I decided to face Clara myself. I drove to her place one Saturday, a small apartment in town that smelled like cigarette smoke and cheap air freshener. She opened the door, glaring at me. "What do you want, Joshua?" she snapped. I kept my voice calm and told her I knew she was bluffing about the police. "You've got no claim," I said. "Grandma and Grandpa left it to Mom, and there's paperwork to prove it. You want to waste your money on a lawyer? Go ahead, but you're not getting anything." She started yelling, calling me a spoiled brat, but I didn't budge. I told her if she kept pushing, we'd fight her in court and she'd lose more than she'd gain. She didn't back down right away, but I could tell she was rattled. Sawyer called her the next day. I'd asked him to follow up, and he said she'd started grumbling about how it wasn't worth the hassle. A week later, she stopped calling Mom. It wasn't a big win, but it was something. Things didn't magically fix themselves after that. Mom was still on edge, and Hadley and I had to tiptoe around her for a while. But slowly, the house started feeling normal again. One night, Mom pulled me aside and hugged me, saying, "I don't know what I'd do without you, Josh." It was the first time in weeks I'd seen her smile like that. Looking back, I'm grateful it didn't go worse. Clara could have dragged this out, and we could have lost more than just peace of mind. Now, the land's still ours, and Mom's talking about fixing up the house again. Hadley's even pitched in, saying she wants to plant a garden there next summer. Me? I'm just glad I've still got that place to escape to when I need it. I feel like I came out of this stronger, smarter, too. I learned how to stand up for what matters without letting it break me. So that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Was there a better way to handle Clara? Should I have done something different, like get Lila involved sooner, or push Sawyer harder? I think I did okay, but I'm curious. What would you have done in my shoes? Let me know.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily updates.